So we need to talk about poor old Mikey Myers. Now, unfortunately, I personally believe that the shape Michael is probably the weakest killer in the game. Now, I know this might be up for a little bit of a debate because there are a lot of weak killers in the game. I personally would give it to Myers, but even if you don't think he's the worst, he is probably going to be bottom 5 on pretty much everybody's tier list. Now, there are several reasons as to why that Mikey is so weak nowadays. Now, unfortunately, he used to be really good. He used to be quite a decent little killer, but since metas have changed, since perks have changed, and since survivors really have a much better understanding on this game, he has kind of just been left behind whilst everybody else goes forward, gets buffs and nerfs, and kind of adapted. Myers has pretty much been the same ever since his launch. Now, the other problem, unfortunately, with Myers is that he is horrendously handicapped by whatever the survivors can bring. If you have a 4-man Swift that are decent on comms, if you have a really bad map, if you don't have the good add-ons, if you don't have good perks, you are more or less guaranteed to have a rough time as Michael Myers, because essentially he is probably the most basic M1 killer you can get in the game. He has nothing to really help him in loops, he has nothing to help his map pressure, all he has is the ability to stalk, to get to his tier 3 to insta-down survivors, and against good survivors on good loops, that is going to be very, very, very tough. So, now, what would I do to change him? In this video, we're going to very quickly discuss what I would do to change Michael Myers, and at least make him viable. I'm not too sure about A tier or S tier, but definitely so he is a valid pick, and survivors will have to really think about how they play against him. So, let's get straight into it. So firstly, let's talk about what I would do to his tier kits. So basically, tier 1 Michael Myers is where this guy really struggles. He starts the game horrendously handicapped, and you have to earn at least your normal base killer speed. It's really bad how much the early game absolutely destroys Myers sometimes, and even if you do run add-ons like Tombstone Piece and the bow and the posters and stuff like that, good survivors will easily be able to get at least 2 gens done before you've even got into your secondary tier, which can absolutely kill his pressure and momentum. So my change is going to be for tier 1, I would make him a bog standard normal killer. Normal movement speed, normal lunge attack, all that kind of stuff, except like tier 1 as he does now, he doesn't have a terror radius. That makes it so that if you want to stay in this kind of form and be a jump scare Myers, you'll be much easier to do so, and you won't be as weak for doing so. If you want to run Scratch Mirror and be a little bit more threatening to the survivors, you can absolutely still do that, but it doesn't handicap you from the start when you want to rise through the tier system. For tier 2, what I'm going to be doing is basically adds a terror radius, so exactly what it does now, it adds his terror radius back to normal, but he can kick pallets, gens, and breakable walls 10% faster. The entire thing about Myers, it's the evil incarnate, he builds in power, whereas he doesn't really do anything in-game other than going to tier 3 that really cements that he has grown in strength. So just a little base thing like this could be great just to make him a little bit stronger, make sure that he can handle the loops a little bit better, or, you know, keep up the pressure just that touch bit more. And for tier 3, what I thought would be really good is that survivors, of course, will become exposed in tier 3, but I also thought that survivors within 12 meters of the shape when he's in tier 3 will have their aura revealed for 1 second every 5 seconds. The thing about Myers is he is one of the strongest horror icons of all time. He is immortal, he is a force to be reckoned with, and in Dead by Daylight he is weak as shit. So for this, it would make sure that survivors have to play very carefully around the tier system. If you know that Myers is about to hit tier 3 and you and a couple of friends are close, you will have to immediately split up, lose a little bit of pressure to make sure that he doesn't come and get you both, allowing him to slow the game down a little bit if the survivors are smart, but also keep his pressure up to a high by being able to constantly and hopefully check where survivors are whilst in this form. Just a little something, I don't think it'll be too much because good survivors will still be able to tackle him very well at loops. Survivors will definitely be able to run him around jungle gyms and TNL walls and main buildings just as easily as the ones did, so don't think that it's too strong, but it will give Myers an opportunity to potentially break away from a really strong survivor and go for somebody who's more prone to going down, or if you're in the west part of the map. Now, on top of these, I thought a couple of changes that I thought would be really good as well is that survivor stalk meters will also slowly regress over time. There is nothing more annoying than being a couple of seconds of charge time off your tier 3, but the survivor that you're chasing is literally full red and there's nothing that you can do about it. Now, I'm not on about like a supersonic thing where it just completely regresses over time, but I mean just like a very slow percentage where slowly over the course of a couple of minutes, you'll probably be able to get a little bit more stalk out of them to make sure that survivors who know that they've been fully stalked stalked can also be aggro in front of those that haven't, making it a little bit more viable, and again, Myers a touch more scary. I also think that stalking multiple survivors at once should give you a massive boost to charge rate. Normally when you stalk multiple survivors at once at Myers, it doesn't really do anything. You can barely notice that you're stalking 2 survivors. I think for this you should be able to get a considerable boost onto the stalk speed, so that if you are catching 2 or 3 survivors that are completely unaware, you can charge absolutely all of your power as quickly as possible, depending on how aware that they are. Again, making sure that survivors can't maybe stick together as much, making them think about where they are, where they're located, and of course where Myers is. But the last point that I'll make with Myers that I personally believe that you should be able to voluntarily choose to exit tier 3. Now, at a cost of course, but the ability to choose to go back to tier 2 just by simply stalking again or something like that could be absolutely huge for him. But I think maybe losing about 25% or 30% of your power to do so would be a really cool little kind of sacrifice. So, if you immediately pop your power down a survivor and then realise that you're going to waste the rest of the other 95% of your power, you should be able to quickly exit it, but at a little bit of a cost, so that survivors again don't just completely waste the stalk that you've already gained on them. Now, this all may sound like a little bit much and a little bit intimidating, but I feel like that's the thing that Myers should be, intimidating. If you see him, you should be absolutely worried on where you're located, where he is, who's around you, and how well he can profit off of your potential decisions. Now, this also doesn't actually make him too much stronger, considering he will still be able to be looped very easily compared to survivors who know how to run tiles and depending on what map. But with these changes, it would definitely kind of give players a little bit more control over Myers and give you a little bit more information so that you can do what you need to do with him, and survivors will have a much harder time in just basically bullying you and looping you, because Myers is weak as hell, and I cannot stress that enough. But that's my opinions, guys. I would love to hear yours down below. So please, if you do have any ideas for what you could potentially give Myers to make him viable, let me know in the comments down below. I can't wait to read your ideas and if you agree with mine. So thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye for now.